Bring that! Bring that!
Touchdown! San Francisco!
McCaffrey's gonna score!
He gets picked off by Hufanga.
Fred Warner with the INT. George Kittle.
That's a sackaroonie, baby.
Ball is out. It is picked up. Run back the other way.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Gold Rush Podcast. I am your host, Javen Takar, and week one for the 49ers, Monday Night Football is all wrapped up. So, of course, we got to make a video, we got to make a podcast, we got to recap the phenomenal performance that the boys put upon the New York Jets. Now, this game was hyped about. Obviously, it got the primetime spot. This was going to be, a battle between two really, really talented teams. You got the New York Jets and their young guys, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and of course, Aaron Rodgers, the return after his Achilles injury just last year. And then their defense that they've got going on with big Quinnen Williams there, Sauce Gardner, all led by former Niners defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, versus, of course, the uber-talented 49ers team with Brock Purdy, Mr. Relevant, CMC, we'll get back to that, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, of course, Trent Williams, and then on the defensive side of the ball, Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Fred Warner, stars upon stars upon stars, Mooney Ward, Damaro Lenore, Hufanga, who was out and inactive this game. Speaking of out and inactive, Christian McCaffrey, an hour before the game, ruled out. Christian McCaffrey is ruled out an hour before the game, and we're all told Jordan Mason will be getting the starting job for the first game of the season. And we're going to start off talking about JP Mason, because what a day. Have a day, young gun. Boy was rocking that 24 with the dreads hanging out, looking like Marshawn Lynch out there, man. 28 carries, 147 yards, averaging 5.2 per carry, and he got himself a tutty. I mean, just a round of applause for JP Mason, because, I mean, he deserved it. And here's the thing. I'm sure a lot of us, the 49er faithful watching, knew that Mason had this capabilities. He just needed the opportunity to shine. So what better way to shine than on the national spotlight in primetime football, going up against the New York Jets, under the bright lights, America watching, and you just take off and you have a career day. JP Mason, congratulations. Let's go, man. I'm hyped for him, and I'm sure the rest of the faithful is hyped for him, and I'm sure that he's going to become a fan favorite now in the NFL, so I'm super happy with him. And he put this team on his back and led us to victory. I mean, what a day. Like, he was very explosive. The offensive line, run blocking wise, was really, really good. It was really good. Dominic Pooney was out there just laying guys on their backs, man. And so I think that he's a really, really special talent there. And it really opens up the offense. So, Christian McCaffrey last season, a lot of his successful runs were to that left side where big Trent Williams and Aaron Banks were. Now, we've got a reliable guy on the right side, so we can open it up a little bit and move to that right side so then teams don't just overload the box towards Trent's side and make it overwhelming for him. And so that is going to be huge once we get a healthy Christian McCaffrey back. Christian McCaffrey, of course, still dealing with that calf and Achilles injury that's been lingering him pretty much since the end of last season. So, it came as a shocker. It came as a shocker, no doubt. But I think when, at least the Niner fans heard that Mason is getting the starting job, maybe a little bit of confidence boost in him for sure. Like, he finally gets his chance. Because obviously he was overshadowed by McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell last year. But now you see those improvements that he's made in the offseason, and you see just how talented this kid is. And I really would like to see him in a split backfield with him and McCaffrey, because he's obviously a power back. He lays that shoulder down and he's going to run a boy over. But not only that, but he also has top tier quickness and agility and vision. I mean, it just seems like every time he touches that ball, he's gonna fight forward, and he's gonna fight for his yards. And you could tell that the Jets defense was getting way exhausted trying to take that man down. We saw Sauce Gardner sit out for, I want to say it was about 9 plays. It was originally suspected to be an injury, but no, I believe that he was just benched because he had some sorry attempts tackling. He was going for some arm tackles, some weak tackles, and so I think that the Jets elected to bench Sauce for a little bit, get his head right. And then of course, he didn't sit down after that as well. 28 carries though, I feel like is a little excessive. At the end of the game, when it was pretty much sealed, I would have liked to see Isaac Guerrero and Patrick Taylor get some snaps in as well, instead of just running Mason to the ground, because that boy is going to wake up sore tomorrow. But definitely a well-deserved game that we've been waiting for the explosive Mason. So yeah, that was just, he needed his own special spotlight, of course. And then Brock Purdy, so he put up a decent game. He went 19 for 29, 231 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions as well. Close to one though. It doesn't seem like the greatest game in the world, and sure, it was kind of more of a simpler game for Brock Purdy, with a lot of it coming from Yak from Deebo Samuel, who also got into the running game a little bit, taking 8 carries for 23 yards. He also got a rushing touchdown there. But yeah, a lot of it was Yak with Deebo. Deebo, we kind of got a vintage Deebo game, rocking, kind of looked like he was in 2021 out there. Rocking the number 1, the new number, with the Samuel Sr. on the back plate. And so he was looking electric, looked a little bit quicker. But overall, you kind of want to see more for Purdy. You kind of want to see him go downfield and kind of, target the middle of the field against the defense. But at the end of the day, this is a very talented Jets defense, so I can understand how that could have been kind of hard. The offensive line, pass protection-wise, did have some holes. There were some times where Purdy had to make some, throws under pressure and throws out of sacks and such, so things that you do want to clean up a little bit. Colt McKivitz struggled as kind of expected. You hope to see some improvement on that right side. Pooney was doing a great job there. Trent Williams did not allow a pressure, but you do want to see more, especially Jake Brendel as well, the center. He got bulldozed by Javon Kinlaw, I believe, on a crucial third down. So the offense really kind of struggled in the red zone. They had to settle for a lot of field goals. Only 2 rushing touchdowns on the day, and then the rest of the points came from field goals from Jake Moody, who also had a career day. Jordan Mason, yes, he was the saving grace this game, but Jake Moody, here we go. NFL on Fox, tweeted out there his field goals: 6 for 6, 46-yarder, 51-yarder, 31-yarder, 53-yarder, 23-yarder, 42-yarder. And so that's kind of what you hope to see out of Moody, and kind of what fans and probably the team were hoping for. Last season he had some difficulties sinking the kicks. He was wide left a lot, I feel like. Obviously, he had his wide rights. So now to see him banging these and building that confidence, it's going to be big. And he could really be something special, kicker to rely on. Because I know, at least those first early kicks, seeing him trot onto the field, I know we're all holding our breaths. We're all saying our prayers. So I'm happy to see that Moody get that confidence for him there. So Moody and Jordan Mason, they were the heroes of the game today. Let's talk about receiving. Who was Brock Purdy throwing to? Jawan Jennings led the team in receiving, 5 receptions for 64 yards. Then Deebo with 5 receptions as well for 54 yards, but he also got the 23 on the ground. I like to see George Kittle here involved with 4 receptions for 40 yards. I love to see Kittle, doing his job there. And then Kyle Juszczyk was also, he got 2 receptions for 40 yards. One, he was wide open down the right sideline. The Jets defense were paying him pretty much no mind, but unfortunately Brock Purdy just did not see him. And, obviously it wasn't a touchdown. But, the idea that if teams are going to just give up and not cover Juice, we're going to get him involved, I like it. And then the big man, Brandon Ayuk. Man, very, very underwhelming. 2 receptions, 28 yards. You hate to see it. And the Niners targeted him 4 or 5 times. There was one where it was in his hands, but Sauce Gardner was able to get in there and poke the ball out. Of course, you want to see Brandon Ayuk hang on to that. Just a good defensive play. But then there was the other play. Ayuk is coming across the field in the end zone. Brock Purdy makes maybe one of the best throws he's ever made, right on the money for Brandon Ayuk's hands. Ayuk is diving, okay, so you got to give some saving grace there. Ayuk had to dive for it, but all in all, it was in his hands. And he dropped it, just straight up dropped it. They didn't even, it's not like he had it and he didn't survive the ground or nothing like that. He just dropped it. So you would have liked to see that, Ayuk be able to haul that in. It definitely seemed like he's in some sort of doghouse or some sort of snap count or something, that they really weren't calling the plays for him. But all in all, though, I'm not too worried. I do expect him to get his big games. You know, everybody's going to have their big games once in a while. Let's talk about the Jets offense. Actually, let's talk about the Jets defense a little bit first versus the 49ers offense. So, like I said, their pass rush was very weak despite the offensive line not holding up the greatest for Brock Purdy. He was under pressure a lot. I don't believe that the sacks say so, but he definitely was. Yes, and their secondary, though, was definitely tough. It was definitely tough. Like I mentioned, Brandon Ayuk's catch where he had the ball in the hands, Sauce Gardner punched it out. DJ Reed had his fair share of plays that he made as well. So a lot of what the Niners were able to get moving in the passing game, it wasn't necessarily Ayuk or Debo routing up their guy. It was definitely more so Kyle Shanahan calling up the plays perfectly to get his guys open. That guy being Jawan Jennings was schemed open a lot. You know, he was left wide open. George Kittle was maybe the only one that was able to make some plays on, you know, the linebacker safety that was covering him. Kittle did make some plays with some guys on his back there. So all in all, though, yeah, you gotta give credit is due. Those safeties and cornerbacks, they were doing their thing. You know, Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, nobody to snooze around about. But then the linebackers, C.J. Mosley was all over. You know, he was making his tackles as he does. But when C.J. Mosley was taken out for an injury, it seemed like, and then that is pretty much really when Mason was able to go off and pound the rock. And there was nothing the Jets defense could do to stop the run, no matter what. It was kind of crazy to see, you know, what the Niners did to the Jets. Wow. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the Jets offense versus the Niners defense. So offensively, of course, Aaron Rodgers putting up 13 for 21, 167 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. You know, not the worst game in the world, but definitely not the best. You know, of course, this is a 40-year-old man coming off of a torn Achilles injury, so you can expect some greatness. But he did have some laser vintage Rodgers throws. There was one down the sideline to Allen Lazard, and then also up a seam to Allen Lazard on a free play that happened to be a touchdown for the New York Jets. Allen Lazard being the leading receiver just because of those two plays, really, going 6 receptions, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, Allen Lazard was kind of the Jets player of the game, but really the true one is probably Garrett Wilson, who went 6 catches for 60 yards. He was pretty much who they were targeting and who they, you know, especially early in the game, was the only guy that could really move the ball for New York. But then, out of halftime, the Niners made their adjustments. They made their adjustments, and then Wilson was kind of quiet after halftime, we'll put it that way. Breece Hall kind of had an underwhelming game as well. So 16 carries for 53 yards. He was also passed to, and he caught 5 passes for 39 yards. He did score a touchdown, yes, but early in the game, he had a very crucial fumble that Fred Warner just came and punched out. Fred Warner is a guy who we're going to get to in just a little bit. But yeah, so all in all, though, the Jets offense kind of seemed a little stall, seemed a little gimmicky, seemed a little slow. But I do expect them to get it together. You know, this is Rodgers' first time on the game field, really, with Garrett Wilson, with Breece Hall, and all these guys. I think they'll get it together. They'll be just fine. Just starting off a little bit slow, rusting. You know, they've rusted a little bit. So I think that, you know, they will be fine. But the Niners' defense was on their A game today. Coach Nick Sorensen really put up a good defensive game plan implemented to stop and slow down the Jets' offense. There was a time about where Breece Hall was moving along and making it, you know, downfield. But then again, that got shut down. Malik Collins was a very good signing for the Niners here. We saw the run defense step up big time compared to what it looked like last year under Steve Wilks. It looked really good under Sorensen. Yeah, like I mentioned, Malik Collins, a big body in the middle there. Him and Javon Hargrave both were clogging up that run. We saw the Niners mix up some pass rushers in there. We saw Robert Beal get some minutes, which was very fascinating to me. Who else? We saw, of course, Leonard Floyd out there. Sam Okoyeonu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So, yeah, they were really rotating those pass rushers out there, which was interesting to see. But, yeah, I definitely expected Bosa to play a little bit more than he did. But, you know, he got his fair share, of course. Now let's move on to the Niners defense, because frankly, who cares? Who cares about the Jets offense? They lost. Niners defense, Fred Warner, he's got to be the top of the story. Boy, he put on a defensive player of the year candidate type game. 5 tackles, two assisted tackles. He was all over the ball, it seemed like. Any time that Breece Hall was getting handed the ball, Fred Warner was going to get a hand in, at the very least. Of course, he got that fumble punch out as well, the forced fumble. oh my gosh, just watching Fred Warner out there was like art. It was something out of a masterpiece. It was a masterpiece. It was truly inspiring. But going on to the DBs, is the cornerbacks. So Isaac Yiadom was the starter. I was expecting to see Ronaldo Green out there, but yeah, no, Yiadom, who didn't get any preseason snaps, he was out there, and he had one little play. It was a 4th down. We saw him on an island with Garrett Wilson, and he knocked that ball out. Garrett Wilson probably catches that if Yiadom doesn't play that ball. Yiadom, man, he got in there, made a play on that ball, stopped the slant, and turnover on down. So shout out Yiadom. Lenoir, he got bodied. He was definitely getting targeted a little bit. Garrett Wilson made a great catch over him, but all in all, again, hey, maybe a little rusty. After that, Wilson didn't really do much. And then Mooney Ward, I feel like Rodgers did not look his way at all. Mooney Ward was really not tested. So that's definitely a good sign. Once the All-22 comes out and we get to review the film, we'll probably do a film review. We'll do a little film review on Mooney Ward and everybody else out there. But yeah, overall, Mooney Ward was real quiet this game, which is a good thing for a cornerback. But he almost got an interception when Tyrod Taylor stepped in. He floated one towards the right sideline. Mooney Ward got up and got a hand or two on it, and he frankly should have came down with it. Would have looked much better on his stat sheet, especially going into a contract year. Could always use as much leverage as possible. Jair Brown was the nearest defender on Allen Lazard's touchdown up the seam, but I don't really know if it was his fault per se, because it was a free play, and I feel like he just kind of lost a step, and Lazard was just able to beat him by just a second. But all in all, though, yeah, the Niners defense was flying. We saw 11 gold helmets to the ball, and this is the type of football that wins championships. I hate to jinx it right now, but this is the type of football that the Niners need to play. They out-physicaled the New York Jets. They out-coached the New York Jets. And what a way to win. At home against a very tough opponent. It's going to be a tough opponent. One of our tougher opponents this season. So I feel very confident about the 49ers this year and moving on forward. And as long as they just keep it up, man, just keep it up. Do not get contempt. And this game was won without Dre Greenlaw, without Talanoa Hufanga. So that's big. And Trent Williams and Ayuk, they're coming off of not going to camp. So you got to respect it. You got to respect it. No CMC, of course, the biggest guy. Just talent all around. Great coaching. Just a very well put together game. Niners, let's not get too cocky, but definitely take what you learned out of this game and just get ready to roll for next week. I believe it's going to be the Minnesota Vikings next week. So, do not take it easy. Do not think it's going to be an easy opponent. That's going to be a fun matchup as well. And let's go Niners. Hey, football is back, folks. And we get to enjoy a fun Victory Tuesday. Hopefully, as you're watching this, you're enjoying your Victory Tuesday. All right, folks, I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Gold Rush Podcast. I'm your host, Jamin Takar. Take a look in the description below. All my other social medias will be there. My TikTok, my Twitter, my Instagram. While you're there, hey, leave a like. Let me know what you agree with. Let me know what you disagree with in the comments. And, hey, subscribe so you don't miss out on any other 49ers videos. Alrighty. I will see y'all in the next one. Peace out, folks.